Hi, good afternoon. Welcome to the marketplace. Coming up this afternoon, aggrieved customers of Gold Coast Fund Management picket the Securities and Exchange Commission for a second day demanding payment of locked-up funds.
Let us stand up. This is the time. This is the time. Show
Also coming up, 2 out of every 3 females in Ghana unemployed. That's the latest annual household income and expenditure survey released by the Ghana Statistical Service, which pegged the unemployment figure in Ghana at 1.7 million people.
We see this skewed towards females, and it's skewed towards female to the extent that we find about a 21 percentage point between males and females.
And we're gearing up for the second edition of the Joy Business Town Hall meeting at the UPSA Business School auditorium this afternoon, where students will be discussing what next after the Domestic Debt Exchange Program and the IMF program. Now, my name is Daryl Kwawu. Thanks for joining us, everyone. Details coming up in a moment. Do stay tuned. Well, first up, aggrieved customers of the fund Gold Coast Fund Management are picketing for a second day at the Securities and Exchange Commission. They have given the regulator 3 days to pay their locked-up funds. The company, which operated under the registered name Black Shield Capital Limited, had over 55,000 customers whose funds were locked up. James Ishen is live for us at the Securities and Exchange Commission. We're linking up with him right now for the latest. What can you report, James?
It's been a very peaceful picketing here at the premises of the Securities and Exchange Commission. It's day 2 of this particular picketing, and it appears they've been trying as much as possible to get their monies being paid to them. But unfortunately, attempt to reach out to the Securities and Exchange Commission had actually proved futile. I have the convener of this particular group, Charles Nyami. He's been giving some revelation. I would come to him for him to help me just help me understand what are these revelations about. Charles, talk to me. You've been earlier giving out some revelations. I just want to know, what is it about?
It's about yesterday, after we finished with our picketing. We were expecting to hear something from the authorities, but we heard nothing. But in the evening, I received a call from a key member in this government from the Flagstaff House. He called me trying to sympathize with us. And he said that he doesn't know what Kenoforiata and the Ubamitete wants. And I asked him why. He said that he was there when the president was signing everything regarding our payment to the finance minister. And he said that that's the reason why the president stood to claim that he has paid all victims of financial cleanup exercise. Then I said, really? And he said, yes. So, and then I asked him, then where is the money? He said that the money is in between the finance minister, Kenoforiata, and the director general of the Securities and Exchange Commission, Reverend Ubamitete. But what we are telling them is that such wickedness must stop. This money, a lot of people are dying because of these locked up funds. We have over 800 of our pensioners, customers of our members died and gone. We have the evidence of the obituary invitations. And if government has so released the money to you, you could be mean enough, you could be insensitive enough to keep this money for your parochial interest. We are calling on the Minister of Finance, Mr. Kenoforiata, Reverend Ogbamita, you stand before the pulpit of God. Do the needful. Wherever the money is, bring it out and disburse. We are calling on the president. President, you have been misled, Nana Akufo-Addo. If they have reported to you that they have paid all financial cleanup exercise victims, you have been misled, you have been misinformed. Here we are, customers of Gold Coast Fund Management. We are over 55,000 members, customers. We haven't received our payment. So, Mr. President, do the needful.
Right, so there is some concerns with respect to this particular group here. Now, let me talk to or engage some of the aggrieved customers here. I have Mr. Charles here, who is also an aggrieved customer. Mr. Charles, just help me understand this. How much did you invest in this? All these while, have you been trying to reach out to SEC, the finance ministry, any staff within in government and all that? Is there any attempt to do that?
Yes, please. Good afternoon to my viewers. I cannot actually disclose how much has been there, but it's been a lot. Yes, we've tried all our best. We've done demonstrations, but nothing good is coming out. We've done a lot, and as at now, we have to depend on our friends to survive, which of course shouldn't be, because we plan very well in our life. What is investment? Investment is to take care of you and to take care of your family and extended family. So somebody sit down and then decide for you, this is how it's going to be. I believe whatever was done by this government is not good, because even closing of the banks also increase unemployment. Because the guys who were working on all the banks are now moving up and down. Some are jobless, some are even involved in galamsey, which of course they need to survive. So I'm saying that the government should mobilize as soon as possible to pay our money.
Right, so the government should try as soon as possible to pay these monies to this customer. Let me speak to this woman here. Madam, just let me know, how much did you invest, or you wouldn't want to disclose? So let me just understand, what has the situation been like? How has it impacted you and all that?
The money is over 1 million Ghana cedi, and the impact is very high because I can't pay my children's school fees. I can't even send money to my mom, and there's a lot of things in the house that I can't do. My husband is a pensioner. So it's not easy to live by pension money alone. So the impact is very great. So we are just begging, or we are telling the government to pay us our money. All that we need is our money, nothing else.
Right. So there's a situation here at the premises of the Securities and Exchange Commission. They're saying over 800 persons, that is aggrieved customers, have actually lost their lives due to this locked up funds. They still have some of the aggrieved customers who are bedridden as we speak now, and all they want is for the Ministry of Finance and the Securities and Exchange Commission to make sure they pay their monies to them as soon as possible. As we may recall, in 2020, President Akufo-Addo said these depositors have had their monies paid to them, or there is a certain amount that has been disbursed to these depositors. But they're telling me today that that's absolutely untrue. None of their 55,000 members have had any single payment done. So over to you, Daryl, in the studio.
Word yet from the Securities and Exchange Commission? James, any word yet from the Securities and Exchange Commission? I don't think James heard me there, but that's the situation there at the premises of the Securities and Exchange Commission. I think that James can hear me now. Go ahead, James.
Can you hear me, Daryl?
Yes, I can hear you.
Right, so we've tried, I've been here for almost 4 hours now. We've tried to reach out to any member within the Securities and Exchange Commission, but all attempts had actually proved futile. None is ready to have any conversation with the media or even these aggrieved customers here. So that has been the situation here as we speak. We've tried everything possible, but no member or staff from the Securities and Exchange Commission is willing to have a conversation with us.
Right, thanks for keeping your eyes on that story for us. We'll link up with you as and when we have any news from there. Thank you so much. James Ishen, live with those aggrieved customers of Gold Coast Fund Management at the premises of the Securities and Exchange Commission. On to other news now. 2 out of every 3 females in Ghana are unemployed. That's according to findings of the annual household income and expenditure survey released by the Ghana Statistical Service covering the period 2022. In all, over 1.7 million Ghanaians are unemployed, with some unable to find jobs, unable to find food to eat, and are multi-dimensionally poor. Government statistician Professor Samuel Kobne-Nim, who revealed the findings of the survey, said the outcome should help policymakers make informed decisions to address the problem.
The 3 quarters of 2022, consistently we found about 1.73, 1.76 of our population that are unemployed. And from the perspective of those outside the labor force, we found about 5.87 to 6.51, ranging between these 2 figures over time. So this is the statistics that we all know. And let's carefully keep that in mind, because we are talking about 11 million people that across the 3 quarters, at any point in time, we find that they are employed. About 1.73 to 1.76 people that consistently we find them as not employed over the 3 quarters. Now we change the narrative to vulnerable employment. The definition for vulnerable employment is simply, are you self-employed? employed without employees? Are you a contributing family worker? And as I indicated, the figure is still hovering around 2 out of every 3 persons that are employed being in vulnerable employment. We see this skewed towards females, and it's skewed towards female to the extent that we find about a 21 percentage point between males and females. So although we are talking about 11 million of our population that at any point in time they are employed, those who are working by themselves, own account workers, and those who are contributing family workers, largely they do not have any forms of contract binding what they do. It's about 2/3 of that. Then we find female dominating among those who are vulnerably employed with a percentage point difference of about 21%. So this is the headline figure that we've always worked with when we come to unemployment, whether it's 13.4, 13.7, 13.9. And as I indicated, we are always concerned about this figure. We didn't deviate from what we know from the census in terms of what our unemployment rate is. During the 2021 population and housing census, we got an unemployment rate of 13.4. And throughout the 3 quarters that we followed the same households, we still have figures in the region of 13.4 and 13.9, depicting the unemployment rate that we have in Ghana. Consistent with our censuses and our surveys, we've seen this as predominantly an urban phenomenon.
For the youth, the outcome is disturbing, with a sizable number in school, not in training, and also unemployed. Let's listen again to the government statistician.
About 1/5 of our youth are not doing any of these. 15 to 35 years. They are not in employment, they are not in education, and they are not in training. We call it the NEET. Not in education, not in employment, and not in training. Honorable Deputy Minister, our goal at Statistical Service is to point policymakers to what we think or how we think they need to target these issues. So it is not just the fact that we put out a statistics that about 1/4 of our youth are unemployed. We're providing further information on where you can maximize your gains if you decide to deal with it. So we interrogate the data and tell the policymaker that it peaks at age 21. So most of our youth at age 21, that is where you don't find them doing any of these 3 things. And that is where you can maximize your returns, rather than targeting the age bracket 30 to 35. So what we show here is that the not in employment, education, and training reduces by age. So once you go from age 15 to age 35, the number of people who are not in employment, education, and training reduces. So if you really want to maximize your gains in addressing the issue, then target age 21. And if you think about this carefully, it coincides with the transition from school to work. It coincides with the number of transitions that we have as a country. So it's pretty easy for the policymaker to target this age bracket and make the necessary returns.
Joining me is Kofi J, data analyst and researcher with JoyNews, with more on the findings from the Ghana Statistical Service. Thanks for joining us, Kofi. So what's the current outlook of Ghana's labor force based on the presentation by the Statistical Service?
Rising up over the course of time.
Analyzing the data.
How many have us been major?
All right. In a bit, we are going to hear from Kofi J, who is a data analyst, also researcher with JoyNews, on the household income survey as presented by the Ghana Statistical Service, which is revealing that 1.7 million people in Ghana are unemployed. We're going to try one more time and speak with Kofi. Can you hear me, Kofi? Can you hear me, Kofi? All right, still having audio issues with Kofi J. If you can hear me, Kofi, I was finding out from you what the current outlook of Ghana's labor force is.
So we've been comparing what the GSS just released to the 2021 population and housing census. And one thing that we found out was that Ghana's labor force has actually increased by close to 11%. So the labor force has moved from 11.5 million people to about 12.72 million people in the third quarter of 2022. Now, if you look at the total number of people who are employed, as far as this labor force is concerned, and in 2021 it was around 9.99 million people. In 2022 third quarter, we are looking at 11 million people unemployed out of the labor force. In 2021 was around 1.56 million people. Currently is around 1.75 million people. So the headline unemployment rate that we see is still around 13.4% as far as Ghana's labor force is concerned. Daryl.
Let's talk a bit more about youth unemployment and what the report says about it.
Well, so it's good to compare the national headline figure, which is the unemployment rate, to the youth unemployment figure. The national one is around 13.4%, but if you look at the youth unemployment rate, it's around 25%. We've been looking at the trend as well, comparing the 2021 population house census data to the GSS labor force statistics. And if you look at the 2021 population house census data, youth unemployment was around 19.7. It has now increased by more than 5 percentage points to 25%. So that's what we look at currently. It has moved from 19.75% to now 25%, Daryl.
Does the Ghana Statistical Service give any recommendations as to what government can do to improve the situation? For instance, when it talks about millions of Ghanaians not being able to find food to eat, not being able to find jobs, they are multidimensionally poor, according to the report by the Ghana Statistical Service.
So simply put, if you are multidimensionally poor, it means that you don't really have access to a good healthcare, education, and other social needs. But with the recommendation that you speak about, just like the curve that the government statisticians showed, it tells you that if you look at the age range, if you are moving from 15 upwards, the curve begins to close. It means that people are also now looking for self-employment. They are no longer dependent on people who employ them. That is why, even if you look at the informal sector, the Statistical Service is reporting that the informal sector contributes more than 5 times to unemployment than even the formal sector. But if you look at the sector of the economy, like the industry sector, which is now representing about the least components of the employment chart, the services sector is still leading with around I think 50%, and the industry sector is still below 30%.
Kofi, thank you so much for giving us more about this survey by the Ghana Statistical Service. I appreciate your insight this afternoon. Well, the second edition of the Joy Business Town Hall meeting at the UPSA Business Auditorium will take place this afternoon. The program is aimed at advancing conversations on the socio-economic development of Ghana, whilst serving as a medium to proffer solutions to aid in the economic transformation of the country. The topic for this edition is Post-Domestic Debt Exchange IMF Program. What next? Emma Davis is at the venue for us with more on how things are shaping up. Over to you, Emma. All right, Emma is not ready. We are taking a short break. We'll be right back. Well, welcome back to the marketplace. We want to take you now to the UPSA, which is venue for the second edition of the Joy Business Town Hall meeting, discussing post-domestic debt exchange program, IMF. What next? As you can see, things are just about kickstarting. I want to connect now with Emma, my colleague Emma Davis, who is there for us. Emma, how are things shaping up? Emma, if you can hear me, how are things shaping up at the UPSA?
And ready for the second edition of the Joy Business Town Hall meeting. But before we go in, I have some students here who are going to give us a preliminary of what to expect for the program. Hi. What do you expect for this program? Okay. So my expectation for this next
so we are going to cut in there, but surely we'll rejoin them, my colleagues at the UPSA, for the Joy Business Town Hall meeting. Let's try one more time. Hopefully this time it works.
And yeah, I want to leave with something.
Okay, so this edition's topic is post-DDEP, the Domestic Debt Exchange Program, IMF agreement. What's next? What do you make of the IMF deal?
Okay, currently I think the IMF deal is what we have to take now, because previously before the IMF deal, there were solutions or things we could consider before going to the IMF, but I think the government failed to consider other factors before we are now at the stage where we have to consider going to the IMF, because right now IMF is debt. I don't think debt is a bad thing per se. Debt can be a blessing to you or a curse. A curse in the case where if you use the debt if you don't use the debt to generate more revenue, then it becomes a curse to you, because you have to pay interest on the debt you've taken. But in Ghana, mostly when we go to the IMF for loans, we use the debt for expenditure purposes. We don't use the debt in productivity to generate more revenue for the government to pay off the debt and increase our balance of payment deficit, to reduce our balance of payment deficit rather. But yeah, I think the IMF program is what we have left now. But there are other factors we could consider rather than the IMF deal. But right now, currently, if you want to wait or think about other factors, I think before we get another solution, the economy might be worse off, and it may even lead to a clash or a crash. And yeah, so I think the IMF deal is good for us now.
Okay, so in your own words, how would you describe the state of Ghana's current economy?
Okay, the state of Ghana's current economy, I think Ghana is in shambles because GDP has been estimated to reduce from about 3.2% in 2022 so in 2022 the GDP growth was 5.4, and then it has been estimated to reduce to about 3.2 in 2021, and that is a slow growth. And growth, if taking America for instance, and 1% growth in America is higher than even a 10% growth in Ghana. And in Ghana here, even when we are having 5% growth, we're not better off. And now the growth is now reducing to 3.2%, and it means that there's something wrong. So the health of the economy is really bad.
What do you expect from this program?
Okay, so from today's program, I expect to learn a lot from our panelists. I also want to know a lot because we are in our final year, about to complete school. We want to know what is out there for us as we are living here. Is the program going to give us more opportunities as students? Are we going to get more job opportunities for us? And what is the program really meant for us as students? That's what I'm expecting from this program, to learn and unlearn.
In your opinion, what would you describe as the health of Ghana's economy?
Okay. So currently Ghana is in crisis. When we talk about a healthy economy is one that is growing sustainably, giving their youth jobs, and then economically giving them opportunities as well. Currently, some of the healthiest economies in the world are Singapore, Switzerland, Germany, Australia, Canada, and USA. But Ghana has fallen short of so many things. We are facing financial deficit crisis. Ghana revenue expenditure is a problem, unemployment situation. Financial markets is not doing well, inflation as well. And we keep blaming it on COVID-19 and then the Ukraine-Russia war issue. I think it's about time that we take responsibility and then we account for ourselves. There should be an accountability here. So still on the health of the economy, let's just take, for instance, last year, our then ex-chancellor, Kwesi Kwarteng, was forced to resign because he made a decision that affected the economy. So he was accountable for his fault. But Ghana, nobody is ready to take accountability, and then that is a major problem in Ghana. So currently the health is bad. We are in crisis.
Okay, Daryl, so this is what you expect from the program, and over to you.
Emma Davis, thank you so much. Emma Davis interacting with students of the UPSA, where the second edition of the Joy Business Town Hall meeting is set to take place at exactly 1:30. That's in 2 minutes. And it's going to be moderated by Dr. Jabir Mohammed, who is Lecturer, Department of Banking and Finance. And of course, you have some students as panelists to discuss all of that. We'll bring you that live at 1:30 p.m. That's in about 2 minutes. Let's see how that goes. In the meantime, though, we want to show you what's trending on our website. If you can do that quickly, myjoyonline.com/business in a bit. There you go. Right. Top story over there. Receiver for defunct Unibank can testify against you. Supreme Court tells Dufour. Also, Supreme Court throws out case against DC's holding office in acting capacity. myjoyonline.com. Those latest stories from over there. Pay our coupons, principals, else we picket. Finance Ministry on May 8. Pensioner bondholders issue new threat, and government borrowed 8.25, or is it 8.25 billion cedis via T-bills in April 2023. myjoyonline.com/business.